Good evening. Wow, come on in. Hello, hello, hello. What an honor to have you with us tonight. I pray that your day has been progressive and productive. I am Dr. Carolyn Boston Love
It's off limits to visitors.
of Jacksonville, Florida.
This isn't working.
And okay, you got that. And we just want to welcome you to a family chit chat and a get together with some of my co-authors and dear friends and folk who understand what time it is, coping with grief and bereavement during the holiday season. The holidays are supposed to be some of the most joyous times and getting together and having family and fun and food and all those kinds of things. But it's not always like that, especially when you've had a loss of any kind. So I thought it was necessary that we come into our community and assist ourselves as well as others with dealing and coping with grief during this holiday season. And hopefully our gathering during this hour will give some holiday healing and holiday rest for you. I hope that you're not dreading the holidays. And if you are, you're in the right place at the right time with the right group of people. And together, we're going to just talk about the comfort and the courage that you need to make resilience a part of your holiday season. I want to welcome each of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I see you in the audience. Thank you for joining us. Wow, what a great day, what a great gathering. Thank you, Delisa from Cali, all the way on the other side of the world. We'll give you a moment to introduce yourself. Thank you, LA. We're here on this coast together. Thank you, Jerry. I thought I saw you. Jerry, who is, hey, there you are. How are you? Who is a grief coach and also a death doula. Just some women who have a voice, who have an assignment, who have a place in this society to help our brothers and sisters. We are our brothers and sisters keepers. And so sometimes we have to provide a space and a place for a safe place for them to gather and to hear some possibilities to make life different and life better. So I decree and declare that this will be one of the greatest freedoms, roads and trails to freedom, so that your holidays will be impacted. And you know that you have a caring community and you have sources to refer back to and to reflect on, and you are not alone. You are not lost and on an island by yourself, but there are others who understand clearly what this season and this time and understand what grief is like. So I am Carolyn Love from Jacksonville, and I'll give LA a chance to introduce herself. We are all co-authors in the Against All Odds book, and that book is available. If you don't have a copy, stop what you're doing now and get your copy. Information to purchase your copies, we're on Amazon, and each one of the ladies, I'm going to ask you, our panel tonight, to make sure you put your contact information in the chat so that they can follow up and make sure that they connect with you, because I believe that we need a community where we can go to for help, and especially in times like these. So LA, if you'll introduce yourself and tell them what chapter is yours, and then Delisa, if you'll do that, and then we'll give Jerry a chance to introduce herself. Let's do that, and let's get this party going.
Absolutely, thank you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is L.A. Roberts. I'm the founder of I Inspire Global, where ordinary people with extraordinary stories change the world. I'm also the radio personality of WDRB Media, the voice of the community. Like Dr. Carolyn said, I'm also the co-author of Against All Odds, and my chapter is chapter 20.
All right. What's the name of your chapter, LA?
You want me to lie to you? I forgot.
Oh,
I will tell you this.
okay. Come on, tell us the
It
truth.
is. It is. Listen, because that was a moment of clarity. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
confession is good for the soul, bad for the reputation sometimes. So, it is. It's talking about pain. Okay, I
It's
don't
talking
have the
about
book right
pain.
here.
Mm-hmm.
Look, y'all, you have to forgive me. I've had a very long day, and I'm actually a four-time best-selling author. So, to name a chapter is difficult sometimes, right? But it is about going through pain. So I have a lot to say this evening, and I'm very gracious that you allow me to join you on your panel.
All right. And I'll have the book with me. So I'll go ahead and give you your chapter title. It is chapter number 20 of the book, Finding Your Purpose in Your Pain.
See, I had the number right.
You had it. You were close. Yes, 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 yes. See, we are sisters keeper. We keep each other in check. Yes, 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 yes. Thanks for joining us, LA, and bringing your voice to this platform. And I know in advance that it will help others. And even this will be on my YouTube channel, so you can share this at a later date with others. Delisa.
Greetings, everyone. How is all y'all doing? You guys are doing great. I'm hoping. And if you're not doing great, with Dr. Carolyn B. Love and all of us, we're gonna get you there today. So my name is Delisa Branch Neely. I'm a registered nurse. I'm also a new coach, health and wellness. And so I'm here. I'm also a co-writer of Against All Odds, and my chapter is Miracles in the Valley, Turning Sorrow into
Mm,
Strength,
mm.
one step at a time. One step at a time, because I am a dancer. I'm a traditional African dancer with a Zimbabwean group called the Chinikari Ensemble. So I'm here. I'm ready to listen. I'm ready to share. And I just want to thank my co-authors, especially Dr. Carolyn B. Love. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Um, Jerry, hello. Jerry's not
Hi.
one of
Thank
our
you for
authors, but
inviting me, even
yes,
though I don't have a chapter in the book.
right. But you know Erica.
Oh,
So
that's
Erica introduced us. Yes. Okay.
So my name is Jerry Juhigu. I am a trained spiritual psychologist. I have a master's in that, as well as a grief educator. I have done hundreds of hours of therapy programming for television. Those channels include VH1, BET, as well as Max. So I've done a lot of work in that arena. I also support caregivers with transitioning from being a caregiver and dealing with anticipatory grief all the way through end of life grief as a death doula.
Thanks. So there's a wealth of knowledge sitting among us. And I'm sure in this location, there's a wealth of experiences. And so before we move any further, I just want you to know that our purpose for gathering is to offer some comfort and some courage for the days ahead. One thing we cannot do is take certain days off of the calendar. We are going to have those days whether we want them to come or not. And so our purpose is to help us get beyond our tears. I've encountered grief on multiple levels, and had to finally make up my mind that this was not my final spot, that there was going to be life after this. And the holidays were some of the worst times for me. People would be singing Silent Night, Holy Night, all is calm, all is bright. That was not my song nor my story. But over the years, over the help, over the training, I have been able to get a grip and strengthen my soul in those areas, my mind, my will, my emotions, the place and the seat of judgment, how I think about things, how I learn things. And so a part of my pain pushed me into a different area of my life. I've always been in education, early childhood education through college. I've always been an instructor, district level administrator, middle school and elementary school principal. And so end of life care and critical care and that nursing field was just not my forte. So those were things that I didn't know about. But a part of my living and trying to cope with my pain, I went back to school to certify in chaplaincy and meet the chaplaincy requirement to be a national registered chaplain. And my internship, my 9-month internship, was in hospice care, an area I had no idea. But I found a place, a resting place for me. And I am a certified grief and bereavement coach, counselor, bereavement expert, to help those who are in the process of moving towards end of life care, whether you are a patient or whether you are a caregiver. Both sides of the spectrum need support and help in that area. So myself, along with the others tonight, hopefully we'll be able to answer some places that you've not been able to articulate or explain. You know that it's a pain. You know that it's a place that you desire to overcome and to move forward. But how you do it and how you get there is a whole nother story. So we'll begin tonight by explaining that grief is the experience of coping with loss. And loss comes in so many different areas. Most times people think that loss is only when one has lost a loved one. But we're living in a time and an age when there is a lot of loss in life across the board. And so grief is experiencing the coping of these losses of any kind that doesn't put more value on one and less value on another. And so it's a painful part. It's a loss, it's a detachment. And grief is associated with anything that comes and disrupts the normalcy of life. I don't think there's anybody in this room that has not had some experiences with losing the loss of something or someone that meant a great deal to you. And from the loss of a child, from a loss of just 5 years ago, both of my parents within 7 months of each other, loss of coworkers, loss of other family. Just loss is an ugly thing, and it's a part of life. So we have to figure out, how am I going to cope with loss? And Dr. I call it Dr. Jerry, but Jerry brought to my attention something that I was listening on my list for my notes, the different types of loss. And she brought to my attention earlier today, there's election loss. There are some folk who have not gotten over and able to move forward. Their loss and grief comes in places and ways sometimes that we least expect. And so when we know and better understand that it's okay to feel what I feel, and know and understand that things that have challenged my normalcy, I have a right to work through those things. And so you have people among you tonight that have experienced, are experiencing right now, are preparing themselves for the days to come, preparing yourself how to help others when you come in contact with them. And grief comes in so many different packages that it behooves us to understand that it might have been grief in a friendship, in a marriage, not only the loss of a loved one or a family member, or a loss of a home, a loss of of situations and circumstances can cause all kinds of forms of grief. The loss of a job, the loss of a career, the loss of your health, the loss of your financial stability. All of these are vehicles that you will end up in a place called grief. When your dream and your goal and your aspiration didn't come to pass, the real you may not be the public you, but the real you encounters some level of grief and disappointment. And so being able to work through it, I just need somebody to help me this afternoon to just choose to work through it. How do I do that? Well, there's so many different types of grief, and the team can jump in. I just want to name a few of the different types. Well, let me just say this. Pamela, do you have anything to add to the definition of grief? Anything you want to add to that portion that stands out with you?
I was going to say I completely agree with the loss of anything, because people automatically assume that it is grieving a person. When you can grieve your circumstances, you can grieve who you used to be. You can grieve, like you said, the loss of a home, the loss of cars, the loss of a lot of things. And we live in a society where we kind of numb it down, where it has to be one or the other. And that's not true. Grief is grief, and it comes in waves. But I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
Yes, we're going to talk about the waves in just a moment. Thanks so much, LA. Anyone else?
I just wanted to add that it's really important to make a distinction between the outward expression of our grief, which is mourning, versus the internal struggle that we're having that is our grief, because our grief never disappears. And a lot of time we can get over the mourning of something, but we are still living with the grief of something.
All right. And I appreciate you bringing out that point. When you really fine tune it, it never disappears. We learn to cope with it. We learn to deal with it. We learn to move and matriculate better through it. But it's not a place that you erase, like you erase a blackboard and it just magically disappear and never will return. We'll have those waves of grief, LA, that you spoke of, that there are things that triggers. There are some things that bring it back up. There are some things that make you revisit it. And they are all a part of the growth process. Delisa, you want to say something?
I was just going to agree with Jerry, because it's something that does never leave you. Life is a circle, so a continuum. And so that grief, that loss is going to be in that continuum of circle of life. And it will come up in different areas. I have, an example that happened to me that was connected to my chapter just recently happened in August. And like you said, there was a trigger there. I held the space for my dear friend's daughter that was making her this transition. Like, I was meant to be in that space. And so, had me relive what I had gone through. And so you will get that. And also navigating through that, I know we're going to share. I can share how I did some coping, did some strategies for self-care, which is what we're here for, to see how we can care for ourselves and also lift each other up and say, it's okay if you cry, if you're angry, all of those emotions. I'm sure we'll talk about that more, but yes, I agree 100%.
All right. I think we're on the right track. There are possibilities, there are ways, and there are strategies for us to move from heartbreak to healing. And I hope all of you will go ahead and decide in advance to agree that this is not my final place, and I won't allow this to be my final place. Let me just give you a couple of different types of grief. There's normal grief. That's normal when there's a loss of one kind or another. There's anticipatory grief, where many times a caregiver sit bedside and watch a process, and you anticipate the loss, and you're already in grief before you grieve. And anticipatory grief is an area that most people think that I am moving too fast. No, you're moving through one of the phases or one of the types of grief, and that's anticipatory grief. Then there's complicated grief that occurs when the grieving does not move as fast as you thought it was, or you got several intense things going on and it's prolonged. And so complicated grief is one grief on top of another grief, and you are trying to work your way through some things. I don't know if anybody is in this group, but I am a living witness that there was one grief on top of another grief on top of another grief on top of a loss on top of another situation, and it was compounded, and it made my grieving process even more complicated, which then could take you into what you call chronic grief. So when it's left unattended, unaddressed, it can become chronic and increase its intensity. It doesn't just go away. You've got to work with it. And so that's the reason why we're here. Then there are times when it's delayed grief, that it happened, it has happened, you moved on, and then you're back at a place where you're feeling what you thought you were over with. It might not have happened when things happen. Sometimes we're too busy and engaged in other things when grief happens that the full impact is delayed, but it's still grief whenever it surfaces and it comes to pass. And then there's distorted grief. That's when that grief was so involved and so engaged, and we've got so many other things going on that the symptoms are there, but they are sometimes masked or overshadowed or underneath. We have to be honest with ourselves and honest with somebody else and say, hey, sis, or hey, brother, or somebody, help me. I am drowning in here. And I don't know if you've ever felt in a situation or a set of circumstances where you were functioning, but you were so tired in here. Anybody ever felt, I am just worn, I am done in here. No matter how I appear to you in here, I am fed up, I am tired, there's a lot going on with me, and I can't get through anything before it seems like something new, something worse, or something different happened. That doesn't mean I'm not grateful. I'm grateful. But my God, I got some things going on. How do I survive life on a daily basis? And you find yourself with accumulated grief. One thing after another, after another, and after another. And so many times there's a part of grieving that's a secondary loss. You have something that happened after something else has happened, and it's really you're trying to cope with what has happened after, but you still have what happened before, and it's never been fully dealt with. So find it not strange when there are things that we use just in life to survive, just to get ahead, just to get along, just to get up and get back in the game, just to show up. But we don't want to mask grief. It behooves us to face it for what it is, know that it is a part of life, and let's try to move forward with help tools even like this. So I'm going to give the panel a chance if you want to share a point in this space here.
I just want to just also add, because I've seen a lot of people, and this really affects people during the holidays when they lose a partner, and that partner may not be a husband. It may be a mate. It may be, a non-traditional relationship. And that is disenfranchised grief.
Right.
And so they don't necessarily get the support or are seen like most people are in their grief. The other grief And as well as a lot of people experience that same kind of disenfranchised grief when someone has lost someone to suicide,
Mhm.
you know. So, and I don't think we mentioned pet grief.
Right.
And during the holidays, when your pet has been a family member or felt like a family member to you during the holidays, it's especially hard to navigate that sometimes. So
Good.
I just wanted to bring awareness to some of those other kinds of scenarios.
Right. Um, your grief may be totally different from mine or hers or theirs or ours, but grief is grief. And for those that, being helpful and think they're helping you, that tell you, okay, just give it a moment and it'll go away. That's not good advice. That's not the strategy to get you the hope and the resilience that you need, not just during the holiday season, but through life in general. And so we're hoping that what is said and what is shared would be the beginning or just what you need to help you find some light in the midst of the darkness of this place called grief or grieving, and that you're not ashamed of it. I don't know anyone who hasn't had moments and seasons and hours of grief, because loss is a part of life. I wanted
Dr. Carolyn, I'd
to,
like to add something to that. You mentioned, Jerry, you mentioned suicide.
mhm,
My best friend committed suicide October 25th, 2017, and it devastated me. So what and it's kind of one of those things where you wish you would have said something else if you would have known that this was
mhm,
going to be the last thing. Well, the year before, my papa passed away on October 26th, 2016, and the last time I saw him was at my grandfather's service. And so around, the same time I'm grieving my grandfather, the first year, his heaven anniversary, and then a couple of days later, I get the call that he took his life. And so then I'm dealing with that for the years. But last year, I lost 6 family members in a row. So by the time I got to October, I was worn out.
mhm, mhm,
I just didn't know what to do. So compound grief is a serious thing. But one of the things I can tell you is that I had to take a step back, because if you know me, and most of you all do not, I push and I will keep going. And I will keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going. And I needed to do that. But it wasn't until the last family member passed close to Thanksgiving.
mm,
And I just had to put a pause there. I just had to be honest with myself and say, you know, I can't do this. So taking the time to recognize that you need the time, that you will wear yourself out, because not only was I wearing my grief on the outside, it was tearing me up on the inside. So take the time that you need and step away from social media, step away from people that are not in your tight circle. Make sure you take care of yourself, because you don't want to be the next person that people are grieving for.
that's right. Wow, that's powerful. That's good. That's good.
Thank you for sharing that, LA.
Mhm, mhm,
'Cause
mhm,
I agree with you. It is super important for people to take a time out and find a space where they can have their grief witnessed in a loving and safe space. Because a lot of times we're dealing with it on our own, as opposed to sharing it with someone, and no one knows how they can support you unless you tell them.
that's right.
I personally, I like to offer to people the opportunity to have someone be there for them by sharing what's happening, because we are responsible for the care that we need. No one else knows what we need. Only we know what we need. So unless we share it with another person that we trust and that loves us, that we know that loves us and has our back, then they can't support us in the way that we actually need them to support us, because they make assumptions often about what they think we need because of tradition, and let's not get into that right now.
Right.
And this assumption
Mm-hmm.
that you are going to get over your grief because they don't understand the dynamics of grief, right? And so they inadvertently give us these suggestions because they don't know what we need because we haven't shared with them what we need.
Or you're strong.
Right.
She'll be
Mhm.
okay.
You got it.
You got it.
Yeah.
And that's
Some
what I
things-
held. I held that strength, right? Like, oh, well, I'm strong, until it broke me down. And I had to tell people, I'm not in this moment. You got to I'm not.
Yeah.
Which shocked a lot of people, but unless you tell them, they won't know.
Unless you tell them, they will not know. They cannot support you if you don't share.
Right.
And it's our responsibility to share.
Yes.
I mean, be bold enough to say, not now. I can't. And there are those who will come with all types of ways that they think that you need to adjust yourself. This may not be the time to go to that gathering, or this may be the time to go. You've got to make some judgment calls and use some wise decision and choices for yourself. It's your responsibility to take charge of your moving through this. You can't wait for folk to give you an invitation to do better. Most times they come with some more to add to your plate. And so you're not only working with a plate, now you're working with a platter of things that somebody else want you to do, somebody else needs you to do. Come on and join this, come on, do this, help me out with this. I am hurting. I need a moment and I'm going to back away. I'm not asking for permission. It's my responsibility to see about myself, and I'm going to see about myself. And we can see about ourselves when we understand that grief has stages. Grief has stages that there are a lot of places to the stages, but there are basically 5 stages. And the first part of grief, stage of grief, is denial. You got to come to grips with what is, what was, what has happened. It's easy to stay in denial because it's so hard to accept some things. It is not easy. I don't care who the expert is, to accept the loss of some people, some places, and some things. It hurts dearly. So one of the stages of grief is understanding that denial. I've got to embrace. I've got to come to grips with. I'm having difficulty accepting this real loss. And you may not tell it to everybody, but somebody you need to have space and a place to have that one-on-one. And I definitely do not believe that, yes, God's grace is for all of us, but it's just not going to fall and rest on you. There are help agents in the earth realm. There are therapists. That's why we are here tonight. There are those who have had like experiences. There's self-help. That there are some things you need to do. Just living in denial is just one of the stages of grief. You cannot stay there. And while denial may be going on, another stage is anger. Tell me about the anger, the real anger that is associated with grief. Multiple sources of, including people, places, and things, that anger grows and breeds because you've had a loss. You are human. No, sometimes we have to sit down and take that S off of our shirt for Superwoman or Superman and sit down and deal with, I'm angry about this. This has not made me happy. I will regain my happiness. I will have peace and joy. But right now, in this moment, I'm angry. That's a stage of grief. And then bargaining. What could I have done? What did I not do? If I was only there, if I'd only called, if I had made that visit, I was gonna go and visit, but I got the bargaining. What I would rather it had been me rather than that. Grief will make you bargain in places that you're in a stage of grief. And then the depression is a stage. Folk, let me tell you something. the depression levels that are associated and the oppression levels that are associated with grief, they are real. You cannot mask it. Eventually, when these things begin to compound one on top of another, you've got to take time for your health and your help in order to move forward. And then the acceptance. Acceptance is a stage of grief. You eventually, I didn't say instantly, suddenly, you eventually evolved into embracing the reality of the loss. That's a stage. You don't lose and then go right into acceptance. And then when you're trying to have your moment or your season, or you're trying to move through grief, and someone don't think that's an area that you should grieve over, excuse me, I don't need your permission to grieve over this. What you don't count as a loss may be something very dear and real to me. So don't let
I have
someone
read.
dictate what is
Yes, I read here.
what is grievable and what is not. Your grief is your grief. Let me go to the panel. You all chime in. What saith thee?
Hi, Dr. Carolyn. This is Reese Johnson. Hi. I joined a little bit late. I loved what I'm hearing. I loved, I think it's Najeri who brought up the different types of things we can grieve. And that was one of the things that was on my heart is we can grieve a job. We can grieve a lost opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she hit on something when we're talking about, disenfranchisement or just not noticing the signs, I think is really important because sometimes we don't recognize that we're grieving, but we can recognize grief's cousins, guilt,
Mm-hmm.
regret.
Mm-hmm.
You hit on anger,
Mm-hmm.
resentment.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things are signs that we're not settled in our spirit and our soul about something. And all those things can build up and lead to the grief. And then it hits us hard because we're not taking care of the underlying feelings, the underlying emotions, the close cousins of grief before we get there. And I think that it's really important, especially us as Black women, especially us as women of color, minorities, multicultural, whatever we want to call yourselves, but creating those safe spaces. Like LA Roberts was talking about, sometimes we think we're strong, we think others are just as strong as we are, and we can discredit the fact that they are humans. They have feelings, they have situations, they have circumstances, they have health, issues and things to take care of. And I think we need to start humanizing ourselves more, being more vulnerable, creating those safe spaces to support our sisters, and giving opportunity to, take off the mask, take off the cape, take off the smile and say, how really are you today? Where can I help you thrive? Where can I help you and support you? Like you as a person, not you as the professional, not you as the doctor, not you as the this, the that, all the titles that we wear, take off the layers and just really get down to basic humanity. And I think that's where I think we all are so focused on the facade and everyone wants to look successful. Everyone wants to look the part. But sometimes that's not what we really need. Sometimes we need to strip down and just be like, I'm not having a good day. I know God is still with me. I know God is walking with me, but you know what? Today I'm not having a good day. How can you help me? Help me. What words of wisdom and encouragement do you have for me? Sometimes we're waiting for other people to give us, like you said, permission to be vulnerable, when we just need to say, how can you help me today? Right? And reaching out. And so I just want to encourage the women on the call, like, When you're feeling that, when you're feeling those close cousins of grief, that's the time to reach out. Don't let it hit you hard, my sisters. Don't let it hit you like a ton of bricks to where it takes your breath away. We're all here to support one another. And hopefully, before the call ends, we'll be exchanging, contact information with one another. But let's create those safe spaces on calls like these, and any other time that we get to engage with each other. Because God put us in the same room on the same virtual, platform for a reason. We don't know what it is right now, but one day we're gonna need each other.
Thank you, Reese. I asked each panelist to make sure you put your contact information in the chat, your email, your contact, so that when that moment comes, you don't allow yourself to feel alone when you need space. And I'm not saying just go to anybody and everybody, but there are those who are assigned to every season in our lives. And that's the reason why we are here tonight. Just to let you know you're alone, but not alone. And that the God that we serve cares enough about us, that he has raised up trained people to help you navigate through this part of life called grief. And grief has nothing to do with who you are. You are still a human and an individual. You just got to know how to navigate and get through it. Jerry, what you say?
You know, I was going to say something. I was going to see if Elisa was about to say something. She looked like she had something on her mind.
I was just wanting to say quickly that hearing all of these different stages and reminding us that thank you to remind us that we have to be honest with our emotions, honest with our inner self, having that talk with self. Like sometimes I get in the mirror and you have that check-in, see how you feel. I know we're probably going to come across some strategies that each one of us or what we can share with others. But yeah, so I'm understanding, and I really agree with having the honesty with your emotions and take off the S, don't wear that mask. Like, we're here. This is a safe place. And so you found it. Thank you, each and every one of you, for getting on this call tonight, because you did find a sacred space where you can be honored for your feelings and emotions.
Okay. All right. So Dr. Carolyn Love, I just did want to add a little thing.
Yeah. Yes.
We are talking about the holidays, and and we know that a lot of times people want us to rush through our grief. And I wanted to give people a little bit of a timeline for grief. That timeline is not for healing. That timeline is for the passage of time and understanding that though you may be in anticipatory grief, which is grief before the death, or acute grief, which is when it just happens, when we're feeling like that, oh my God, I'm not going to survive this. And then within the first 2 years, we're in early grief. And then anything beyond that is mature grief. Now, that does not necessarily dictate how you're feeling in those different timelines. But there are timelines so that you know that, hey, I've been dealing with this for this long, and it's okay because this is my process. But know that you may not necessarily be in the early stage or the acute stage, right? When you're 2 years in, because you may be in a traumatic grief that takes you 20 years to get past, right? And that is part of your mature grief. And I wanted to say that because we are upon the holidays and Thanksgiving is coming up. And I would like to offer to the people that are here on the call that, obviously during the holidays, we miss the people that we love the most. But maybe if you could consider taking time out and remembering those things that your loved one loved and honoring them in some small way at Thanksgiving, whether it's one of the things, remembering how much they loved turkey and or dressing with cranberry sauce, or whether it is creating ornaments at Christmas time or the Christmas songs, just remembering to honor the person that you loved in your loss so that we can start to transform our grief and our sadness into a loving and an honoring during the holidays. And that way we can love ourselves as we're remembering and loving them.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. And you may have to make a shift in what has been a traditional ritual that you, as a family, as a group, as girlfriends. One year I lost 3 girlfriends back to back. And coming into the holidays was like, we used to do this and we used to do that. Well, my new normal did not include them. And I still try to correlate some of the things we did together, but I had to wrap my mind around it's not us in our group anymore. And some of those things I could do alone, and I had the memories and I had the pictures, and you have to find a place and a way for you to move forward, and to just ignore as if it never happened. That's not as healthy as you could have in another space. You may have to reinvent. If grandpa always carved the turkey, all right, who's gonna carve the turkey now? We gotta find ways to move forward, even when those are painful ways. And that's when it's another person involved. But when the loss is with you, when your health is different, when your finances are different, when your mobility is different, when there are so many good things that you once experienced and life is different from you, you can't drop out because of the holidays. You've got to find what you can do with what you have left. And I don't know who that is for tonight, but what can I do with where I am and what I have left? And so as each author talked about her chapter, their story brings to you what they had to do to put these formulas in place for life, some strategies to help them move on. LA had her recipe for disaster, but she changed and she eventually embraced that I've got to do something different. Delisa works with patients in surgery all day long. And we were talking earlier today, life is full of up and down. That's how you want your heartbeat, up and down, up and down. If ever it's a flat line, you know what that means. It's over. So the ups and downs of life are part of life. So don't drop out of life because of yourself or someone else. I believe that there's grace for you. There's life for you. There's more for you. Jerry's given us a number of things and a number of ways, Reese, to think about. It's real. It's real out here in these streets called life. What am I going to do with it? What am I going to do to make this holiday season better?
May I say one more thing, Dr. Carol?
Sure.
Reese brought up something, and I don't see her, but I wanted to bring up when she said find people, to talk to. Everyone is not going to know how to handle you while you're grieving. So please do not get upset with the people that just don't know what to do.
Right.
It's not that they don't love you. It's not that they don't care about you. It's not that they don't care about what it is you're going through. They just don't know how to support you. They may not have the words that you're looking for, that you're searching for. They may only know how to sit down and listen. Him being quiet doesn't mean he doesn't care. It just means he's trying in the best way he can. And so I would definitely suggest find the people that are able to give you what it is you need in that season. And it may not be the person that you think is able to give it to you, the strong person that you always go to. They may not have the words to say, but keep searching for what it is you need. And it may take a while, but please don't get upset with the people that just don't know, because they just don't know.
And sometimes all some folk can offer you is the gift of presence, being present. And for those of us who have walked this trail called grief, sometimes you don't need conversation. I don't need to keep well, what happened? I don't need to keep repeating that. That is not helpful for me. Well, what you're going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. Sometimes just your presence speaks volumes. I care. If I'm with you and you don't have a lot of words, this is not a talky talk day. I'm okay with that, because it's about you moving forward and just our presence being there, or just that text message. Or you have to do something, but you don't have to fill it with what you think a person needs or a person wants. It may not be by any means what they want. And I don't know if we have caregivers. If you are a caregiver currently, or you served as a caregiver, and you can raise your hand, will you let us know that you're in the room? Anyone who've had to offer care to a loved one, to a friend, you've been in the space of a caregiver. That's a difficult place. You are not forgotten. Thank you. I see your hand.
That would be me.
That would be.
But I'm already on the panel. But yes,
Yeah.
I'm currently doing that.
Wow. Yeah. And so what you have to offer and what you have to give to be an effective caregiver, it's most times draining. And sometimes folk are so focused on a situation that they forget about who's on the sideline in the treasury of, it's an everyday thing. It's an all day thing. It's nonstop. We pray strength for you, hope for you, and that you don't get lost in the middle of it. I mean, caregiving is not easy. And you have those that say, all right, I'll check on you later. And they go back to their life. They go back to their normalcy. They go back to their routine. Even after your loss, a life celebration of your loved one, or your situation, they say, all right, we'll see you later. And they go back to their life, and you've got to find out how to navigate from one situation to the other. And it's not easy. So I advise you, please connect to help that can help you. We're not doing this just to be doing this, but it's needed in the community. So we put it at 3 different times. Tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, for those who couldn't meet because of evening requirements. And then again next Monday. Maybe something will be said, will be shared, will be addressed, that can at least get you started towards moving and navigating through this upcoming holiday season. Don't count yourself out that I won't make it or I can't do it. All of us have said that. I'm guilty. I don't want to go through this holiday season. Well, it's going to be on the calendar. It's not going to be erased. It's going to be a part of life. And so we pray that you're able to have holiday resilience and not allow the dreading of a day on a calendar to come and disturb your peace and your inner trust and the real you. It will come for you if you don't, if you're not aware. Something just happened and I fell apart. Well, that's what happens when you're trailing through grief. And like we said from the beginning, grief is a part of life. We can't erase it. It doesn't go anywhere. But as we matriculate through it, it gets better and better. If you have questions, if you put those in the comments, let me check and make sure there's no questions in the comments. Okay. Panel, any final remarks?
My only final remark is grief is the price we pay for love. And so if you have been so blessed to have love in your life, you may experience some level of grief.
Right.
But isn't that the beauty of love, right?
Thank you so much, Jerry. All right.
My ending comment or my final comment would be kind to yourself through the process. It's okay. You will move through it, find the people, love on yourself because you need it. But please be kind.
Thank you, LA.
I
Police.
wrap up with saying, do so, like piggybacking on LA, do something for yourself that brings you joy, that brings you peace. If that's as little as, getting another special hairstyle, if it's, having the deluxe pedicure, if it's something that's going to make you just feel a little bit more, a little bit more happy, more settled, go for it.
Go for it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We knew coming on that we could not dissolve or solve the weights of grief in 1 hour, but we did want to connect you to a community that says, I thought I was the only one, but I see that there are others who are having like feelings, who had challenges, who are walking through this, who thought it was over and now it's like it's starting all over from ground zero. That there's some folk that understand that grief is a part of life. And while I'm living and I'm continuing to love, one of the consequences of loving is that some things you love, when it's gone, there's that process of grief. But there is healing in grief. And we pray that this holiday season will not be able to dismantle you to the point that you lose your peace, your focus, and your trust. This is not the final stop for any of us. Share this opportunity with the panel for tomorrow at 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, and then next Monday at 7 o'clock again. If you have comments, we're going to leave the post open for a while. If you want to make sure you pull our panelists' information, make sure my contact information is in the box. This recording will be on my YouTube. You can go to the YouTube, Dr. Carolyn Love. If you have not gotten your copy of Against All Odds, there are stories, there are life chronicles, there are things that will help you matriculate through this place called Coping with Grief, not just for the holidays, but for a lifestyle. It's been my pleasure. Thank you, persons on the panel who have been here with us tonight. To our audience, I can't say thank you enough. Please share. Please send someone to the YouTubes. Please send someone for tomorrow and next Monday. And we want to reach as many people. You are so welcome. You are so welcome. We just want others to regain their confidence and courage that I can make it through this. It is not over for me. May the blessings of God be yours. Yes, yes, yes. My team will leave the post on for a few moments after we're gone. Contact us. We are here for you. This is not by accident tonight. Blessings, and may the favor of God be yours. Thank you so much. Pass the word. We'll see you the next time. Thank you, panel. I appreciate you so much. Bless you, bless you, bless you. Get your copy of the book and read the stories. Thank you, ladies.